Welcome everyone to the 6 round post-fight show with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host Eddie Mercado. Let me just get my mic actually over here by me.
And Happy New Year, Zane. I don't think I've done a show with you in the new year yet. So
No, I don't think so. So
15
yeah,
days
Happy New
in,
Year,
Happy
Eddie.
New Year. I hope you are knocking out all your resolutions if you even do that thing.
Not really, but had I resolved to watch more UFC, this card would not have helped.
If this card would have been the reason you broke your New Year's resolution 15 days in.
Yeah, we were just talking about this in the lead up, but this is one of those cards where if you took away all the bad parts of the card, it would have been a pretty good card, but you can't really do that. Like, I mean, everything that you remove the bad parts from is no longer bad. And this card, everything that was not an exciting finish was a completely forgettable fight. And that's not to say all the fights were bad. You know, James Krause, Alex White, not a bad fight. Irene Aldana, Talita Bernardo, not a bad fight.
Even the opening match, the Burnell Santiago, that was fun back and forth, but like you're not going to remember that the next day. You're not going to tell anyone to go watch that fight. You're not going to remember it next week. Like, it's just
when you have a whole card full of fights like that and only punctuated by a few cool moments, it's hard for anything. It's hard. The mediocre becomes that much less entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost becomes boring in a way. It's just like, and I really hate to say that when talking about fights. It's like, you know, these people are fighting. This is combat. How can you dare call combat boring? But you know, when you have so much of it, and it's like you don't even know these people. These could be any face on anybody, and it's just like, you know, why do I care about this fight? Why am I watching outside of the fact that it is the UFC?
When the UFC is putting on, 600 fights a year, you have to have a little. You begin to have some quality differentiation, even if that's not what you want. You're gonna, if you can't tell the difference between any of them and you love them all, then, more is the credit to you. But the rest of us can't live our lives that way. That is to say, all that said, the night did cap off with a very, very good performance in a very fun fight. Jeremy Stephens picking up the brutal ground and pound TKO after dropping Choi hard. And doing it in a fight that up until, about a minute before the knockdown, Stephens was pretty clearly losing.
Yeah, he was. He was getting outstruck. Choi was finding his rhythm. He was looking good. He was attacking the leg, even though early on Stephens was defending. He was checking the leg kicks, but I mean, he just turned it on, and Choi is just so hittable. You know, I think I saw some crazy stats leading into this fight. It was like strikes landed per minute is like 5 point something for Choi, but the strikes absorbed was 6 point something. And I'm like, that's not good. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hit hard enough for that to be, you know, your stats. You know, I can get it if you're willing to take two to land one powerful one. Okay, but
that one Cub Swanson fight really skewed all of Choi's stats. But it also turns out that, maybe him being really hard to finish has been skewed as well by not fighting a lot of great finishers. Not fighting people who can compete with him. As he's getting up and fighting more elite competition, the fact that he's, even if he's not that bad defensively, he's not good enough defensively to fight at this level.
Yeah, it's hard watching him get hit so cleanly too. But like, he's got a great chin.
Yeah.
Like, there was one point where Choi had Stephens up against the cage, and Stephens gets a little bit of separation and lands the cleanest elbow. And like, it didn't even cut Choi. It didn't stun him. He just kind of got a little smirk on his face. And it's like, holy shit. Like, that is a huge strike that this man just ate like it was nothing. So the dude has a great chin, but like, that's not what you want to be known for.
I do kind of wonder if maybe he broke his jaw at some point, because I didn't notice it until somebody mentioned it afterward. But for like the last couple minutes of that fight before Stephens finished him, his mouth was just like open the whole time. So that could have been something that happened in there. I mean, when you're eating shots like that, it's no surprise if one of them breaks something. But the other part of it was that I thought, I was really impressed with the way Stevens recomposed himself in a fight. He was really, like I say, first round, he just lost the first round. Second round starts, Duho Choi comes out, lands a fantastic snapping front kick that snaps Stevens' head straight back. Looked like it kind of stunned him for a moment. And Stevens responds by like swarming Choi and pressuring and getting wild and crazy the way he's done, like nearly fell over swinging a hook or something like that, I think. And then suddenly it was just like something in his brain was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is none of the plan. Not the plan. Comes back, resets, starts throwing leg kicks, starts working his jab for the first time in the fight, and suddenly every single thing he's doing is landing behind his range tools and led straight to the knockdown, straight to the knockout.
I think it's fair to say that Jeremy Stevens took Duho Choi seriously.
Yeah.
He showed up with a plan. And
he did.
Like you were saying there in the first, that kind of wasn't the case. He was kind of doing his own thing. But damn, he showed up huge. Man, he hit so freaking hard. Like, who's hitting harder than Jeremy Stevens in this division? Not many people.
Yeah, and the way you can see why he has not gotten more KOs with the way he winds up on those strikes and the way he shows them. Like, a lot of Jeremy Stevens' career has been that first round. It has been him, like, throwing a left hand or a right hook from, like, the third row of the seats. And it's like, wow, yeah, if that thing lands, it is going to kill you. But Duho Choi just saw it and slipped out of the way, and it didn't land. And you don't land those punches, and it doesn't matter how hard you hit. But when he can actually set things up, show a jab, make people think about things a little more than just watching his power shots load up, then the fact that he throws so hard, it really puts that power to use in a way that most of his career he hasn't, and has thus not gotten nearly as many huge knockouts as he would for somebody who hits as hard as he does.
Yeah, and real smart move calling out Brian Ortega in his post-fight interview. I definitely would like to see that. Ortega's on a tear. I don't even know if Ortega would even want that fight, but I don't think Stevens is a guy that's easy to submit. If I remember correctly, I can't remember him being. I don't think he's ever been submitted. Maybe.
He usually uses his wrestling pretty well in reverse as long as he's focused on staving off. And yeah, he's only been submitted by Joe Lozon once in 2009 and then by Dean Thomas in 2007. So he's been submitted a few times very early in his career, but the last one was to Lozon.
So, like, Ortega's a guy he hasn't fought.
Yep.
Ortega's a guy that gets hit a lot.
Yep.
And that's not, you don't want to get hit a lot if you're fighting Jeremy Stevens because he just hits damn hard. And now Ortega does have nice head movement. So, who knows, he can make Stevens miss by a mile and that could set up a takedown. But it's really hard to take Stevens down.
Yeah, and I think the Ortega fight is one he would take very seriously. He wouldn't be calling a dude like that out if he didn't think that that was a fight that he had to that was really like big on his radar.
Does Stevens is he making a run here? You think he can make a run at the title?
I don't know. Stevens has never been a complete enough fighter to really compete with elite talent. He came in sharp as hell and prepared for Frankie Edgar and still just cleanly lost that fight, like all the way down the line, But
that's, Frankie's great.
Yeah, but he's also among the elite, and Frankie's not good enough to be champion. At least hasn't been yet, so
it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. Like Stevens in general, his game has just never been deep enough to be when he fought Max Holloway just had to stay at range and pick him off with shots and keep his distance, and Stevens had no answer at all for that.
That's pretty much the blueprint. If you can just stay away from Stevens and be mobile, he's going to get frustrated trying to take you out and gas a little. You can do what you want, but man, I like the guy. I think he's fun, and he I don't know.
He's the fun classic kind of action fighter you always want to see do well, and he's hung around at the top of the division, at an elite level for way longer than most people do.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of that's being a real tight with the UFC brass. So I mean he can lose
Yeah.
3 fights in a row and still stay with the division or stay with the company. Because I mean before these back to back wins, I mean he lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 7
Yeah.
before this little resurgence here. So
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like that's why I
inconsistency
say
and
when you talk about
consistency.
title, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, every time he, fights somebody who's like really at the elite level, he tends to fall short. But he's also, he's going to always be a dangerous fighter in the top 10 at featherweight as long as his chin holds up.
This was such a big win for him, such a huge finish. I mean, you have to put him above Cub Swanson. You know what I mean? Like you have to put him up near the top 5, which is cool though because you got Josh Emmett floating around there also.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting, that's a curveball no one saw coming.
Although he has also lost to Cub Swanson before.
Yeah, but it's gonna get incestuous.
I know it is already. I mean, that's kind of why you want to see a guy like Choi get this win, is because you get dudes like Stevens and Swanson hanging around forever who have already fought each other and everybody else. So I
But
don't know.
Ortega it's nice though up there.
It'll be good to see if Stevens can get this Ortega fight. He definitely deserves to keep getting big fights at a high level because he's dangerous and he puts on a good show when he's got somebody, when he's got the right fight in front of him. So before that, though, in the co-main event, Jessica Rose Clark and Paige Van Zant put on a pretty terrible fight.
This
I
shit was
mean,
trash. It was a trash co-main event. Like there's no two ways about it.
part of that is obviously the co-main event got scrapped at the last minute because Uriah Hall and Vitor Belfort were supposed to be co-main event. I don't know if that would have been less trash, frankly, but
I'm a Vitor mark, so
I know.
I'll watch any Vitor fight.
But this wasn't supposed to be the co-main, and then you've got Jessica Rose Clark going through a bunch of emotional stuff, her cat getting killed, her house getting robbed, all that stuff. And Paige Van Zant on her end broke her arm pretty early in that fight, going for that spinning back fist.
It was a nice spinning back fist too.
It was.
But just not the right move.
Yeah, and unfortunately the thing really is that even before that back fist, even before she broke her arm, Van Zant and her recent career changes, none of it looks like it's doing her any good. Like
there's no logic there.
Yeah. She looks like she had a better command of range this fight than she did against Beck Rawlings, where she was basically just like throwing random switch kicks from like 8 feet out. This time she actually landed those switch kicks when she threw them. But her strike selection is still just, I'm just going to pick like one Superman punch and throw that, and then I'll throw a step knee, and then I'll throw a switch kick, and then I'll try to clinch up and throw some uppercuts. It's just like, you're not like building anything.
She has a whole bunch of moves, and she just pulls one out of a hat. It's like, oh, spinning switch kick or something.
I'm kind of surprised she's not a Jackson Wink striker, frankly. Like, that's what she looks like, a classic Mike Winklejohn striker.
That's where she should probably go, honestly. Like, if that's how you're going to insist on fighting, at least go somewhere that will sharpen that up a little bit.
And then the part that was kind of bad, to me to see here is that it just seems like her wrestling and grappling game is devolving too. Like
which is sad because what else does she have? A pressuring clinch game that's frenetic and high cardio, high pace, but lacking in any kind of real depth or devastating.
She's still a good athlete. I mean, the kind of person who can repeatedly land jump knees and jump switch kicks in round 3. She's got athletic talent, but
go to Jackson Wink then.
Yeah, and all credit to her. Maybe the broken arm is all of it. Maybe she'll have that fixed and she'll just continue to like evolve and become better as time goes on.
That's not it. She got better when she had the broken arm.
I know.
Her game with her,
I'm trying to be kind.
I mean, kind. Come on.
I know.
This fight was horrible.
It was a terrible, awful fight, and some of the worst wrestling on both sides I've seen in a long time. Van Zant got herself taken down, going for a head and arm throw, and then Jessica Rose Clark tripped herself on a body lock on Paige Van Zant, going for a trip takedown. She literally just tripped herself off balance and ended up dragging Van Zant on top of her, who then stood up and gave up a single to double leg and just tipped over and gave Clark a triangle choke. And it was
sloppy.
bad.
The sloppiest fight on the entire card.
Yeah. So that fight was terrible. And at the same time, Jessica Rose Clark could argue to be in title contention now in that division because she's got 2 wins at strawweight or at flyweight. And
to that, I say this: whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Before that, Kamaru Usman 30%ed Emil Meek to a 30-27 decision, and I'm a fan of Kamaru Usman. When I scouted him for years ago for the Bloody Elbow scouting report, I rated him as the best welterweight prospect in the world at the time. He's since gone on to rise up the rankings, rise up through the UFC, look really hard to deal with, and validate me somewhat. At the same time, you don't grind a guy for 3 rounds and then tell everybody you could have done better. Everybody better watch out because you could have done more to the guy that you just had a grinding win over.
Yeah, you have to have a disclaimer after that. Be like, this was only 30% because I tore my groin, because I have 1 arm.
Yeah.
I had 1 eyeball out here. I had the flu. I had syphilis. Whatever. You know what I mean? You can't just be like, hey, I was half-assing it. Fuck you guys that paid to watch this because I didn't respect this guy, so I did the bare minimum. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
he got booed hard.
That does not endear anyone to anybody, and he called out Colby Covington for what would be, if the UFC booked that fight, the most fadeable matchup in the top 10. Everybody else in the top 10 would watch that fight, see the winner, and be like, I'm not fighting that dude.
Yeah, no.
You cannot pay me enough to fight this grinding heel wrestler who is going to spit on me and just turn this into the most boring fight of my career, boring loss of my career.
Man, I would like to see this as a wrestling match. That's for damn sure. I think that'd be fun. But you know what? I honestly believe that these guys are so down for their craft that this would be one of those rare cases where they would actually wrestle each other.
Oh yeah.
And I would like to see that.
I want to see the fight. I'm just saying that the winner would come out as the guy that
everyone's ducking him
at all. There's no upside. There's no sales pitch for the personality. There's no, there's no fun. There's no action you're gonna get out of it. There's no we're gonna put on a war for the ages. It's the dude that everybody else is just gonna be like, nah, don't pick up my phone. Don't even dial my phone with that name on the other end.
It's no fun. That's the worst style to go up against, in my personal opinion.
And that's also why this fight got made, it was always nonsense for Kamaru Usman. It's, a dude who has no upside for him. He beats Emil Meek. Everybody's like, oh, who cares? What's Emil Meek done? Or Emil Mech done? And Emil Mech wins, and it's just a huge, name earn, or a huge earn up the rankings for Mech. But the big reason the UFC apparently made this is that nobody's picking up the phone to fight Kamaru Usman,
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him either.
No.
That dude's scary. For real scary. And athletic, and can wrestle his ass off. Sucks on the microphone, not good at trash talking.
No.
That needs a little bit of polish. But the same can be said for Colby Covington. He's got a interesting style. But I like the fresh blood up at the top. So.
Yeah, I like seeing a couple guys up at the top of any division that everybody actually has to build a game up to beat. You have to prove you can beat this guy. May not, it's not going to be an easy run to a title shot for either of them the way they've formed their games. But in the meantime, you're going to see some prospects that we all love just get absolutely ground to dust by one of these two for a while.
I'm glad that him
For
and
both of
Covington have not been paired up until this point.
Yeah.
Like, good on the UFC for not doing that. And what's crazy is Usman had like several like lifting up slams.
Yep.
But the crowd still booed his ass, you know?
Well, the problem
Still
too,
got the
part of
business.
the problem in this fight, and I will give Usman complete credit for this, for as boring as it was, is that Emil Mech is, and showed it in this fight a lot, every bit as athletic as Kamaru Usman, every bit as strong. He was able to scramble to his feet numerous times, able to, you know, and part being that and being way less technical, he forced Usman to just lock him down. It's like, well, this dude's strong enough that if I give him an inch, he'll get up. You don't give him an inch. You can't. You can't afford to. And that's the result you get when you get somebody who's not technical enough to actually out wrestle you, but is strong and fast enough to make you have to really control them. You get a boring fight.
Yeah, and I think the crowd really will turn on you if you're holding and controlling somebody and they're landing strikes from the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, the crowd is going to eat you alive.
And I will say too, to Usman's, to his discredit there, if somebody's being that active from their back, they're leaving openings that you've got to be capitalizing on,
Yeah. Maybe that's 30% thing
Yeah.
here.
All right. After that, Darren Elkins beats Michael Johnson. And man, I feel bad for calling this and calling it way down the line. I didn't call the rear naked choke. I didn't know if he would choke him because Elkins is this dude who goes for a ton of subs and rarely gets a sub. But
Elkins is a dude that goes for everything and rarely gets anything.
Yeah. But man, Michael Johnson, he is really way off in that Melvin Gillard territory, isn't he?
Ooh, that might be balls dead accurate right there. Yikes. Yeah. I hate to say it because I like Michael Johnson, but fuck.
As our co-worker Mookie Alexander said on Twitter during the fight, Michael Johnson is he's a perfect mashup of Melvin Gillard and Eric Silva.
Man, at least he dusted Poirier. So like at least there's that. He's got that going for him. But man, this was not a good debut for 145. And I thought he looked good too.
Oh yeah, there's an argument he 10-8'd Darren Elkins in round 1. Like he just teed off on him all round. Hurt him obviously several times. Was a complete one-sided shit kicking. Then he went for a body kick without a setup in round 2. Got immediately taken down with a single leg and
became another statistic.
Yeah.
Man, that's so sad. Like he was right there. He was right there. Darren Elkins pulled a Darren Elkins.
I even called this fight might be a draw because Michael Johnson would light Elkins up so badly in round 1 that he could get a 10-8 and then lose the next 2 rounds.
But classic Elkins performance, and possibly eat a whole bunch of punches, survive and recover, come back and put it on your normal human opponent.
Classic Michael Johnson performance, come out looking like absolute fire, making everything look easy, throwing hands, showing power, and then get trapped into your opponent's fight and just have all the wind sucked out of you immediately.
I mean, to be fair, this is a shitty run right here. You get Khabib, Justin Gaethje, and Darren Elkins. Never would I sign anyone up for that.
No,
that's murderer's row right there.
And before the Poirier fight, Nate Diaz to really put it on the group of 4 people who all just fight stronger and stronger as the fight goes on.
Oh,
that's a rough one for a dude who fades early.
Yeah, who's his manager? But they're great opportunities. They're all great fights.
Yeah.
So at least there's that. But you got to question where Johnson goes from here.
You
gotta think
the shot.
Yeah.
The UFC these days, they really are not cutting dudes at all. Most of what's going on are people are fighting out their contracts, and then the UFC is just not picking them up again. So I don't know where Johnson's at in his contract, but if he's got fights left, the UFC is probably going to give him those fights.
Man, That's tough. He lost 5 of his last 6,
Yeah.
and his last 3 losses were pretty brutal.
So before that, what would have been a really fun fight on any other better booked card, or pretty fun fight? Alex White, James Krause. What do you think of the decision on this? Alex White lit Krause up all fight, but after some good takedown defense initially, could not stop another takedown to save his life.
I scored it for a 29-28 for James Krause. I gave Krause the first and the second. I thought White did a good job there on the third, getting the knockdown and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, it's great that you can hurt your opponents and you can throw your hands and put your combinations together. But if you cannot stop your opponent from controlling you, you're not going to be an elite fighter in the UFC.
Yeah.
And that's just the bottom line.
It is. And Alex White, I mean, unfortunately, the thing for him, too, seems to really be that he's obviously worked hard on his takedown defense. I mean, this is a dude who got out-wrestled by Clay Collard at one point, you know?
Yeah.
And he stuffed Krause's shots for a little while, but his wrestling work he's done, like, it hasn't stuck to the point that when he's tired, he's still doing the work. When he got tired, when the fight, you know, when he got, even as he was doing well, and he did well all fight standing, it wasn't like he got so tired he couldn't do anything. But when he got just tired enough to take the freshness off of round 1, he wasn't stuffing anything.
Yeah, and to Krause's credit, I mean, he was really sticking with those takedowns.
Yeah.
And not just like sticking with the same failed single leg. Like he would transition to a whole bunch of different types of takedowns and eventually would get them. And I felt like this was an extremely intelligent fight for Krause.
It's a veteran performance. He still fights like the best sparring partner in the gym, but it's a very veteran performance from him, you know? He's got a multidimensional game. He knows it. He knows how to get to different things when things aren't working. When he's getting punched, he knows how to wrestle. When he's losing the wrestling battle, he knows how to strike, all that. It's never quite venomous enough where you're like, oh, you've turned a small amount of success into a huge amount of success. It's more like you've gotten just enough success to make sure you're winning this round.
Yeah, like he's friends with all his opponents.
Yeah,
but like so smart, man. It's, you know, he was getting tagged a lot on the feet when he was just moving backwards in a straight line or like exiting without his hands up.
Yep.
But, you know, he was like, oh, things are going south on the feet. Let's shift gears and take this fight to the ground. And, like, even there in the third where, like, White was really putting on the pressure, really coming after Krause, Krause goes for a flying fucking armbar, which he almost gets. But the more important thing is he probably would have gotten taken out on the feet if he had not made the fight go to the ground. And that's what that flying armbar did. It brought the fight to the ground for the remainder of the match.
And White, to his discredit, given that, he's just still too eager to play on the ground, to stay in tight, to stay in the clinch, to when he gets sucked into a grappling battle, to try and do his own wrestling, to try and do his own grappling, to try to work off his back, throw up arm bars, things like that, when he needs to be just scrambling and creating space. So it is a hard-earned loss for Alex White there, I would say. Like, I would have been fine if he'd won it, but he earned that loss the hard way.
Yeah, he did learn it the hard way. I would have had a little bit of an issue if he would have won, but I'm a little bit biased because I'm a James Krause fan. Like for the longest, we're born in the same city, and my Twitter handle at the Eddie Mercado is actually inspired by James Krause's nickname, the James Krause.
Well, there you go. Mine is not. Mine is a mockery. That's what it is.
A mockery of James Krause.
Yeah, there you go. Got to make sure I'm on the other side of you for that. All right.
Divide and conquer, my friend. Divide and conquer.
Yep. Brings us to a lightweight bout, or with
yes,
lightweight, or is it welterweight?
It's lightweight.
Lightweight bout: Marco Polo Reyes, Matt Frivola, and man, Frivola was just, you know, he always comes out brawling in his fights. And I thought here he would, like, get stung once or twice and start wrestling. And that would be the big difference maker for him to make this fight his. Instead, he just got stung and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bite down and brawl some more," and that was not a sharp idea.
Now, Polo Reyes definitely ran shop on this kid. Like he beat the tar out of him. It looked like Frivola, maybe got a hold of some old Vanderlei Silva fights from Pride and was like, I can do that, and like went out and tried to do it, and then it ended up looking like me playing my niece in the UFC video game. This was bad. This was a shit kicking.
Probably, Reyes, I mean, his game is not that diverse or deep. He's not that young. He's 33. He's, mostly a brawler. But he has evolved as a brawler to be somebody who slips a couple punches and lands a couple hard shots rather than somebody who just sits there with his chin out and tries to land all the hard shots first.
Yeah. Polo Reyes fought Matt Frivola like he fucked his girlfriend. Like he literally just beat the pants off this kid from like start to stop. The only time he wasn't is when the referee stopped it for the 3 seconds to put his mouthpiece back in because he got it knocked out. Like,
yeah.
It's so crazy watching Polo Reyes in his last fight get dusted by James Vick.
Yeah.
And then come out here and put on this kind of performance. Like, where do you lie on the spectrum, my friend? Like,
well, I mean, that just shows you how much better James Vick has gotten. It's, at some point you got to give respect to James Vick that he's really actually beaten some pretty good people these days.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm high on the guy. Vick is nasty, but it's just interesting to see Frivola doing that to somebody now, and it's like, or not Frivola, excuse me, seeing Polo Reyes do that to somebody.
Yeah. No. For that, Irene Aldana beat Talita Bernardo. Good, solid. I'm glad that the refs gave Aldana the second round when Bernardo had top control and landed nothing from it. But expectedly solid performance from Irene Aldana in a fight. She needed to look that good in this fight, I think.
Yeah, she looked big. She looked mean. She looked strong. She looked purposeful. Like she knew what she wanted to do. She had her game plan for her hands laid out, and she even did well on the ground against the grappler.
Yeah.
Of course, it helps when you rock them first and then you go into their world, But she looked really good and dangerous. She looked dangerous.
Yeah, I'm still a little worried how much Bernardo having some late success, just kind of throwing wild at Aldana. Finally realizing she's had to bite down and throw hands and clipping Aldana a bit late because pressure has always been Aldana's problem, that she can't handle somebody who can just go after her over and over. So we didn't really see that was answered, but it's at least, you got somebody who can't hang with you on the feet and you lit them up. And that was what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think she looked great. She looked really good.
For that, Kyung-Ho Kang beat Guido Canetti, and man, Kyung-Ho Kang did not win 1 minute of this fight before that submission.
Yeah, it's like he forgot he knew how to fight for the first 4 minutes of this match. He's just like getting pieced up, and Canetti's out here spamming some wild ass shit, throwing all sorts of spinning stuff and haymakers, but like actually connecting and like landing some pretty legit strikes, and had Kang hurting on the ropes. And then it's like Kang just had enough of the BS and was like, you know what? Enough of this. I know I can fight. I'm just going to grab him, throw him to the ground, and then, start this roller coaster of a triangle sequence that was, pretty gnarly. And I thought he was going to get Carlos Newton there for a second, but.
Yeah. I mean, Canetti, he learned the lesson that if you pick somebody up to powerbomb them like that, you either powerbomb them or you've made a terrible mistake.
Or you powerbomb them because you go to sleep trying to powerbomb them.
There's no, you go down in MMA history as an all-time great highlight, or you just go down, and like those are your only two options. Maybe you can, if you're super incredible, you can hold somebody up against the fence long enough that they have to break their leg lock. But in doing that, you're going to use so much fucking energy to hold a person up on your shoulders. like that. I mean,
or you just pass out like Matt
yeah,
Hughes did and powerbomb anyways and somehow
yeah.
get the win because you wake up first. Speaking of
Oh,
Matt
man.
fucking Hughes, the Matt Hughes tribute was so amazing. The best
Yeah,
part of this card, next to the Jeremy Stevens knockout, oh my god, it had me in my feels. Like
it did.
they show this Matt Hughes preview, and then they cut to Matt Hughes walking to the octagon, and at that moment, I got something in my eye. I don't know what was going on, but man, what
Well,
an
it's one
emotional
of those
moment.
things that, for the past 6 to 7 months, we've seen photos of Matt Hughes. We've seen little, like, maybe a little bit of video here and there of him talking to somebody a little, or like, out at a restaurant or whatever. But that's like the first time I've seen Matt Hughes up and walking around since this accident. And, it's weird. It's surreal to see, you know, to see a dude like him suddenly just like where walking is a huge achievement, and he's got tears streaming down his face, and he's just getting out there and you can tell that just being under the power of his own body is a big thing for him in that moment.
Dude, I cried my fucking eyes out. I'm not even gonna lie. I fucking love Matt Hughes, man. This is one of the most decent things that the UFC has done in a really long time.
Yeah, it almost makes up for firing him.
Almost, but like it was a special moment
It was.
for an event that was anything but,
Yeah.
and for a promotion that's otherwise this cold and lifeless business entity.
Yeah, they've really gone from being the promotion that made everybody feel like it was like, oh, you fight for the UFC, you get gifts all the time, and they treat all their fighters like friends and family and
It's the in
amazing and all that.
circle.
And now it's corporate UFC where it's like, oh, I've half the roster, even more. It's like I've never spoken to Dana White ever. I got to like shake his hand once in a hallway, and that was it.
Sign of the times. But when they do shit like this, though,
Yeah.
it keeps me around for a little bit longer. You know what I mean?
No, it was a great move. It was a class move from them, and I was happy to see it.
Fight
Yeah.
Pass prelims.
Back to the Jessica Kalindra Faria fight, I guess. I won barely, and then cut the weirdest promo of all time.
I won, but I lost
Yeah.
by watching this fight.
I mean, I don't like Jessica that much. She, there are reasons for that. She's kind of a jerk.
I didn't
But
like her on her post-fight speech. I will say,
I actually thought that if she was being as dry as it sounds like she was being, I will appreciate that post-fight speech for just deadpan going up in front of everybody and telling them that they don't like to watch people punch each other. What they really like to watch is wrestling after winning that decision. Like,
yeah.
I don't
crazy.
know what she was doing up there, but if it was like some sort of Kaufman-esque comedy routine, I'll take it.
But I think she was being legitimate. Like,
she may have been.
I don't know. It was an okay fight. I mean, I liked the first round, how it was basically
the
one big
stuff
game
that
of
Kalindra
footsie.
Faria did was pretty badass, but the stuff that Jessica I did to win was mostly take down and get some control.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of fights.
No.
And you know what? I remember more of her post-fight interview than I do of her in the actual fight itself. And not for good reasons.
Faria landing some sweet chin music was about the highlight of that fight.
Yeah, she did. I forgot about that.
Anyway, it keeps, we're going to get to see Jessica I again, where she'll lose another random fight that you feel like she should have won going in and just kind of made some weird decisions halfway through.
I really give no fucks about Jessica I.
Yeah.
And I don't even feel bad saying that. Like, she just doesn't do anything for me.
Well, she doesn't win, so it's,
And when she does, it's a split, so.
Yeah. Before that, J.J. Aldrich beat Danielle Taylor, and that was actually a legitimately impressive performance from Aldrich, who...
Professional is a good word for it. It was a real clinical performance. Like the way she was marching down with her cross and her jab, like just these basic fundamentals. I thought that was superb. Absolutely superb.
And unfortunately for Taylor, it shows that a lot of the improvement she showed in that Jessica Penne fight was really due to having somebody in front of her in Jessica Penne who only knows how to fight marching forward right into power shots. Like, Aldrich showed a little defensive footwork, like circling out on angles and like getting out of the pocket after landing a couple of shots, and suddenly Taylor just was the same, backing up, frozen, waiting for that one perfect overhand counter to come that would fight her.
Yeah, but I mean, JJ really did well. I mean,
yeah.
she looked really sharp and she was real consistent throughout the fight on the way she was fighting.
Yeah.
And her pressure was awesome. She pressured as a tall fighter, which is, it's a weird thing because she's not exactly trying to get on the inside. She's just like really trying to get you to react. And if you're throwing hooks, if that's like your brand of punch, she's coming down the pipe with some straight stuff that's going to disrupt anything you're doing. And that pressure did sometimes put her on the inside. But when she got there, she already had the knee to the body to outside trip takedown already in her head. Hey, the second it gets inside, this is what I'm going to.
Yep.
So it's like she knew what she wanted to do in each phase of the fight. And what a well executed performance by Aldrich here.
Yeah, she looked. I mean, she just started being able to train full time ahead of this fight and showed. She looked like a really well prepared fighter.
That really does make such a difference.
Yeah.
Like being able to train full time. It just blows my mind that there's still UFC fighters that have to have another job.
Yeah. Well, before that opening, Mads Burnell, Mike Santiago. I just want to throw this out there because I don't know. I want to be snide at the beginning and then talk about the fight. Mads Burnell kind of fought like a dude who didn't have to cut the last 4 pounds.
Ooh, bang, 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 shots fired.
Didn't he? Like, he fought really, like, the big turning point of this card was that he was able to keep his cardio up and, like, power through these grinding takedowns late into the fight. It's like, is that the cardio of a dude who just didn't try that hard to cut weight?
I don't know. That's 4 pounds.
Isn't, but
4 pounds is a lot to miss weight by.
Yeah.
Like, that's a conscious choice to stop trying at a certain point. But
I mean, I don't like fighters cutting weight. I think it's stupid. I think it's the most likely thing to get any of these people killed in any fight. But it does, it does suck for your opponent when you miss by that much and then you come out and execute this like grinding power game on them.
But to be fair, I mean, Santiago was making mistakes out there.
Oh yeah, he made a ton.
It's not like I think that's just one of many factors that why he won here. But I thought it was a cool fight, though. I thought it was a good way to start the card. It was back and forth. When it first started, I thought Santiago was going to take it, and then Burnell comes back, and then of course, like you said, you start thinking about the 4 pounds that he was over, and then it's like you really don't like seeing guys lose when the other guy has, or at least in the grappling department.
Yeah.
And it always makes me think of when Will Brooks fought Alex Cowboy Oliveira.
Yeah.
And it's like, would that fight have been the same if they were both on weight? Because I don't think it would have been. And that's kind of the case for a lot of these catchweight fights. Or this wasn't even catchweight, right?
No, this was just...
Dude just missed.
Yeah, he just missed.
Well, at least he'll get 20% of Burnell's win bonus.
Yeah, he'll get, 20% of 10,000 or whatever. And get an extra $2,000.
It's a tough gig, man.
It is. All right, back to the top. Duho Choi Jeremy Stevens knocks out Duho Choi, puts himself right back in the talks for a title eliminator. I don't know, he probably gets it over over Darren Elkins if it's between the two of them. But I don't know. Let me see who else is at the top of that division.
I mean, you got Emmett, Josh Emmett, and you
Josh
have
Emmett, yeah.
Brian Ortega.
Yeah, I could easily see one of them getting Emmett and one of them getting Ortega.
Um,
Question is, who do you think gets who?
I think Ortega would get Emmett because Emmett's more green than anyone else out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, man, Stevens and Elkins is the barn burner of all of them.
We've seen Stevens beat Elkins already.
Did he knock him out already?
He didn't knock him out. He just decisioned him.
Was it? I don't even remember that fight. Was it like hard to watch in a good way?
It was basically Elkins getting tagged up early, realizing that he couldn't jump into the pocket against Stevens, and spending the whole fight trying to like stay outside and kickbox.
Well, then you know what? Since Jeremy Stevens is so cool with Dana White, that'll probably be the matchup then. Hey, here's this guy you already beat. Go do it again. Because it's going to be the same fight.
It just seems like that would be the fight that Stevens wouldn't want. Like, why risk yourself? Why risk anything against somebody you've already beat?
Would you rather face someone you already beat that you know how to beat them and it will be the same fight, or this enigma that is Brian Ortega that somehow will pull out a win at any given? I think Ortega's the more dangerous fight.
Yeah, but I mean, if these guys didn't want to take risks, they wouldn't be cage fighters.
True, but calculated risk. We're talking about trying to get into title contention here.
True.
And if I were Stevens, I would think that Darren Elkins is the smarter fight because he's more hittable and less dangerous.
I just figure Stevens and Elkins will get either Ortega or Emmett each, and that would be what I would assume.
But then what do you do? Then you have Ortega and you have and then let's say they win. You have Ortega and then you have Jeremy Stevens. Do they fight each other? And then
well, I mean, Ortega's going to be the top contender no matter what with any win. So
he'll probably get the title shot then.
Yeah. That would be my guess. But
it's intriguing though. I like what's going on there.
It's nice to see at least there's enough new blood at the top of featherweight, even though we started out talking about how there's not enough, but there's kind of enough to make some new fights.
Yeah. I mean, there's still like this incestuous undertone, but you know, Josh Emmett just really did wonders for the featherweight division.
He did everybody a big favor by picking off Ricardo Lamas, who has already fought literally everyone.
But that's one of the instances where the dude missed weight, but he didn't come out and try to put that weight on his opponent. You know, he just threw his hand and knocked the dude out. Like it happens. Yeah. So I'm okay with that.
All right. On that note, time to wrap things up. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find both of us over at BloodyElbow.com. We will be back next week for UFC 220, featuring a pair of title fights, heavyweight and light heavyweight. Volkan Ozdemir gratefully pleading not guilty to keep himself out of jail, at least just long enough to get a shot at the light heavyweight title. And so we'll be back next week with all our normal care, don't care, if I did it, heavy hands, vivisection, all that stuff we do. If you enjoyed our show, give it a like over on YouTube. That's a thumbs up thing down there. That helps us a ton. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM. So you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, news, analysis, all we do. That's all the stuff we do. And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.